Okay, this is my first attempt at a video for YouTube. This is me playing the role of a congressman who is not a complete psychopath responding to the protest and riotous behavior the other day at the Capitol when a bunch of people came in and inconvenienced some politicians. And unfortunately, a few people got killed. All right, so just I guess maybe he's doing this from his house because he's socially distancing. You have to suspend disbelief. All right. It is now my turn to give a profound speech on the assault on the Capitol. I would have dressed up, but y'all just had a guy dressed as a bison Viking up here, so I reckoned my worn out t shirt would be fine. The title of my profound speech is We Had It Coming and We Got Far Less Than We Deserved. I see a lot of shocked faces out there. We had it coming. What have we done to deserve the people coming in our sacred building and walking around getting their peasant germs all over everything? Well, the sun is going to burn out in the next 5 billion years, so I'll start with recent history. And by that I mean 2001, when the people were attacked by enraged foreigners. As usual, it's the people, you know. In this recent assault, for instance, not a single politician was harmed. An unarmed woman was shot in the neck by a professional government gunman, but the worst thing politicians had to endure was wearing shopping bags on their heads. The attackers were mad, according to their own words, because of the endless meddling in their affairs. This anger compelled them to commit a terrible evil, killing 2,606 non-combatants by ramming planes, also full of non-combatants, in the World Trade Centers 1 and 2. It is always bad to target non-combatants. But that's the business we're in too, so maybe we should get off our high horses. So on that day, every one of us was happy. Happy. But our fellow Americans have just been killed. Wrong. Americans have been killed. The peasants have been killed. But in truth, they are no more our fellows than cattle on a ranch are fellows to the farmer. Remember that scene in The Matrix where Morpheus holds up the battery? The people are that battery. They are fuel for the machine. They're the people who make our soft little lives possible. We are tapeworms. Done lost my place. Siphoning off the food they consume. So we were happy. Why? Because terror and fear makes us more powerful. People look to us for protection, and boy, were they going to get it. And they'd want revenge, and we are set up for the revenge business. The revenge business makes money. So what did we do? Well, we passed the Patriot Act, giving ourselves tons more policing power. We can now legally and indefinitely detain anyone based on the barest suspicion. We collected communications data in bulk. But the big thing was we went to war. And those wars haven't ended. Sure, we went to war. We were attacked. Well, we didn't really go to war with the people who attacked us. We invaded Afghanistan and we attacked the Taliban. Not nice guys, but they weren't the culprits. But they gave safe haven to the culprits. Well, if we're going to go by that standard, the 9/11 attacks were funded by Saudi Arabia and they were playing to Germany. And we invaded Iraq again and lied to people to get support for it. Over 1 million Iraqis have died thanks to that, and their country is in even worse shape than it was under Saddam. In these 20 years of attacking people who weren't connected to the 9/11 attacks, over 7,000 U.S. soldiers and Marines have been killed. In 2001, there were 400 members of Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. Today, around the world, it's in the tens of thousands. Lost my place. But maybe if we'd focused on Al-Qaeda or accepted one of the 3 offers of the Taliban to turn over Al-Qaeda, those numbers would be smaller. Maybe Iraq wouldn't be in total shambles, Libya wouldn't have open-air slave markets, Syria wouldn't be in a state of civil war, and the children in Yemen wouldn't be starving to death and dying of cholera. Any one of us get sold into slavery? Madam Speaker, did you get cholera from the filthy peasants walking around in here? No? Well, we're better off than our foreign victims, aren't we? And surely better off than the members of the military who died, who were maimed, who are killing themselves at a staggering rate. I am guessing that not a single member of Congress will be so damaged by this assault that they'll be driven to suicide. About 7 years after the 9/11 attacks, the housing market tanked in 2008. We responded to this crisis rapidly by bailing out corporations, by bailing out institutions that had given out risky loans, activity we encouraged. Why? Well, we had to save the economy, right? We gave out some stimulus money to the peasants, enough to cover a month or so of living, not enough for people to keep their houses. No, we needed to make sure that corporations kept their assets. Sure, they had made bad decisions. It's not like in some places where mortgages were bought by other banks that those banks then worked with the people to get agreements that benefited both parties and people kept their houses. No, nobody can figure out anything unless we step in and throw money at millionaires. Money we don't actually have, by the way. It's money that's borrowed from the future. A system that erodes the value of the savings of the middle class, money that is generally dispensed in a way to widen the wealth gap we all pretend to worry about. Pretend? I don't pretend. Well, the median wealth here is $1 million. That would be in Congress there. Which really isn't that much, admittedly. It amounts only to $50,000 a year if you live off the interest. An income that will put you in the 56th percentile. So even looking at it that way, you're really not doing too badly. Add in your salaries and your benefits, and I think we're all comfortably secure from the recessions that devastate so many. So we've killed their children in pointless wars that have been abject failures. We've bailed out millionaires while they lost their homes. That seems like enough, but wait, there's more. I'd like to talk about the drug war. It is at the center of the policing problem that came to a head last year with riots, looting, and burning. The death of George Floyd touched it off, and that was terrible, but I'm going to focus on Breonna Taylor, who was in her home when some drug warriors kicked in the door and murdered her. They didn't find any drugs. They didn't have body cameras. And they're not going to be charged with home invasion or murder. They had a no-knock warrant, ironically. Apparently, after many hours of investigation, they decided she was such a threat that they couldn't just wait for her to go to work or go shopping or to get her mail. They had to raid her like she was Osama bin Laden. The only reason they didn't have a Black Hawk was probably because they didn't fill out the right paperwork for the 1033 program. I can't wait till we start giving surplus drones and missiles. They'll take out entire city blocks in the name of fighting the drug war, which has been a total failure for everyone but the drug dealers and the government fighting it. But back to Breonna Taylor, who died in her house for no reason at all. They didn't find drugs. They didn't find millions of dollars hidden in the mattress. They found nothing. She died because of us. Because of our bloody-minded attempts to control the bad habits of the people. Habits a lot of us probably engage in. I recall at least 2 elected officials talking about their marijuana use while in college. One of them helped throw marijuana users in prison. Not the resort prisons we'll go to if we get caught doing something and somehow can't get pardoned. These prisons are hellholes filled with gangs and drugs. We can't even keep the drugs out of prisons. But we're going to spend billions of dollars, much of it borrowed from the future, from tax slaves yet to be born, out of the U.S. with access by highway, air, and sea. And we will kill people in their homes to do it. Or we'll take their property and make them prove it's innocent in order to get it back. We don't even have to find them with drugs to do that. They just have to have an amount of money we've decided is too much for a peasant to have on them at the time. Breonna Taylor didn't die because of racist police. She died because we are busybodies. She died because of us. We made the laws. We fund the drug war. The cops are just hirelings. If we ended the war and they weren't paid to kick in doors and kill people who are defending themselves, they'd stop. It wouldn't happen. If it weren't for us, Breonna Taylor would be alive. We've killed their children in wars based on lies. We've bailed out corporations that made bad decisions while the people lost their homes and their pensions. We've imprisoned and killed their children for drugs they sometimes didn't even have in their possession. So they're angry, and they should be. They had a right to do a lot more than break some windows, take some hard drives, and stand on the altar where we speechify. Folks, we got off easy. The debt is nowhere near repaid. So what can we do? Nothing. And by nothing, I mean stop doing something. End the wars. Close the nearly 200 bases on foreign soil. Bring their children home. Stop murdering foreigners at weddings and cafes. Stop helping other governments annex territory. Stop bailing out corporations. There are processes for selling off the capital of failed corporations. Let those processes work. There's a reason none of us are Jeff Bezos. And it's not because we're altruistic. It's not because we're pleasant people. It's because we're people of average intelligence who at best would be managing an Applebee's if it weren't for winning a popularity contest. End the drug war. Drug abuse is bad. Murdering Breonna Taylor is worse. If any of us had the slightest intellectual curiosity, we would know that prohibition doesn't work. It didn't work for alcohol. It's not going to work for drugs. It works for the drug dealers and it works for the government. And there's more nothing we can do, but those three things are a good start. They're the biggest ones, I think. And it won't solve everything. We've been meddling in their lives for decades. This anger has been building for years, and it's not just on one side. It's on all of them. And it's not going to just go away overnight. There's a lot of repair work to be done. If you don't want to do it, then quit. Go get a real job. I suspect most of you will be fired in short order. Because you're soft, you're stupid, you're arrogant, and you're skilled only at manipulating people who can not legally get rid of you. You are, at best, mediocre. I'm astounded that most of you can eat without stabbing yourselves in the face with the fork. You really are the worst humanity has to offer. We are no different from ISIS. We just have better press and a population we think wouldn't put up with the type of abuse they dish out. Thankfully, it looks like the people's toleration for that abuse is diminishing. I, for one, hope it continues to decline. We're bullies, and the only thing we understand is when someone stands up to us. So instead of berating the people who finally had it and went off, instead of asking their friends and neighbors to turn them in so we can indulge once more in petty revenge, we should let it go. We should apologize for the abuse we've heaped on them, promise to begin leaving them alone, and for once in our worthless, parasitic lives, follow through on that good promise.